The blind elf looks better than he did in your last encounter. His clothes are clean and his pale face has some color. The elf turns to you and listens closely. Is that you, my savior? I recognized your footsteps. Determined footsteps, befitting a determined person. Allow me to thank you again for saving me. Please accept this humble gift as a token of my appreciation. The elf hands you a small black ring with 2 scarlet runes on it. Erebeth has explained why you were looking for me. I warned the authorities of Canabris that the local wardstone had been desecrated. They waved off my warning and paid for their inaction. I have examined many wardstones, but only in the one guarding Canabris did I sense a flaw, a spot of corruption inside. A vulnerability the demons will surely use. They're able to spread the blight inside the wardstone, corrupt it, make it their weapon. It frightens me to think what it will be capable of. The wardstone must be destroyed. Who are you, and why did they let you examine the wardstone? The elf smiles faintly. I'm Storyteller. Just an old elf. A bit more. And a bit more. I'm old even for an elf. I've seen many things and been many places. Not so long ago, I witnessed the making of a young kingdom in the Stolen Lands, led by a remarkable, promising individual. My advice on the complicated matter of conquering those lands proved useful to that leader. So, by the way, this is one of those, like, tiny hidden Easter eggs to Kingmaker. And actually, I think this is a really nice way to do it, too, because you don't feel like you don't feel like you had to have played Kingmaker to necessarily understand this. Like, if you never played it and you don't understand the reference, then it's just, this is what the storyteller did before they got to you. And if you played Kingmaker, you're like, that's me, kind of thing. So it's a really well done Easter egg. That is not uncommon for me. Some seek my advice or services, and I don't refuse. This is how I acquired my reputation as an old vagrant who's never hurt anyone. Stayed out of other squabbles, but sometimes gave good advice. I had a few friends in Neurosian who vouched for my integrity. This is why my humble request to be allowed to see the wardstones was granted. I visited all of them, but only found cause for alarm in Canabris. And do you wield some special magic power, some instinct? The storyteller chuckles. Yes, to a certain extent, but it's more of a gift. I can see the past. Stories that have happened, I touch an object and shreds of its owner's memories are revealed to my mind. Their emotions, passions, tragedies, I see visions like I am them, and their stories happen to me. This is my power. I've been roaming the world gathering such stories for many thousands of years. One day, I will gather them all. So what blight is concealed in the wardstone? I'm afraid I don't have an answer to your question. To understand the nature of this blight, we need to understand how the wardstone was created, and it is hidden from me. I can only guess. Have you heard of the Red Morning Massacre? A dreadful morning remembered with fear even by those not yet born at the time. A demoness called Minago invaded the city with a crowd of her followers and started to do what demons do best, kill and desecrate. They say they covered the wardstone with pieces of dead bodies, splashed it with blood from top to bottom. Could such an abomination darken the radiance of a gift of Iomedae herself? The locals think this is possible, but who knows? It was not the last attack. Many demon leaders brought their unholy forces here. Even the terrifying Balor Komorzadeh. That's another one. That's like Savamelech. Like that one, like you just have to say it like over and over and over and over again, and eventually you'll get it. But like you can say it in your head just fine. But when like you try to make it happen out loud, you're like, blah, blah. Their attacks were rebuffed, but they still reached their target. I think this is when the seed of corruption was planted in the stone. It wouldn't have grown on its own, but Daskari himself has now come to take advantage of this weakness, to open the abscess that has been festering for years. Unnoticed by the people of Canabris, and when the demon lord struck the blow, the weakened stone gave in. Now it's in the demon's hands, and nothing is stopping them from spreading the blight throughout the entire stone, and from it to the others along the whole perimeter of the world wound. Why did you travel to the wardstones? I tried to see their stories. The visions I had when I touched the wardstones were unclear. I saw hundreds, maybe thousands of different stories at the same time. They follow each other like flashes of lightning. It was impossible to separate them. I couldn't understand where one of them ended and the next began. I have heard you, Storyteller. In that case, you must make every possible effort to destroy the corruption. Unfortunately, I don't know where to get an instrument powerful enough to banish it from the wardstone. As far as I know, there is nothing like it in Canabris, but the demons might have something. I heard the dying roar of Tyrendelev, the silver dragon, the protector of the city. At the same time, I felt a wave of unfamiliar power sweep over me from head to toe. I'd advise you to go to where Tyrendelev perished and search there for something. I'm sorry I can't be more specific, but intuition and strange sense of rightness tells me to point you there. So let's show him the purple stone knife. I found this in the square where Tyrendelev perished. What do you make of it? The storyteller reaches out and says softly, even from here, I can feel the strange energies emanating from this object. If you don't mind, I'll examine it using my method. I'll try to see the past of its owner, their emotions, and shreds of their memory. Maybe it'll help us better understand what we're dealing with. The storyteller touches the knife, his fingers clamping around the hilt with a hungry, masterful grip. His face contorts into an evil grimace, his voice disgustingly raspy. Hunger, many legs bring me into the lair, to my mother's feasting hall. Her swollen body, overfilled with food, is so huge that I have to look at it with all my eyes at once. On top is her scrawny little head, with a long beak that is always yearning for more food. You feel feverish in your chest, where the mysterious wound is concealed, feels hot. Your mind is flooded with a wave of visions that repeat the words of the old elf. Mother greets me with a placid screech, stupid, greedy wretch, whose only achievement is my birth. A creeping, wingless creature, it's your fault I have no wings, a symbol of greatness, a birthright I should have received from my mighty father. Mother points me to a crowd of whimpering subjects, suggesting I fortify myself with their pathetic flesh. Not today. I summon my spawn and they fly to me, enveloping me in a teeming cloud. Like a dark, buzzing wings, they unfold behind my back and lift me up. Mother has always been stronger, but she did not expect this. I dive on her and rip her bloated body with my claws. Ichor splatters, the bones spur on my heel sink into her flesh. I clench her pitiful, tiny head and tear it off along with the shreds of meat. Victory! I am the strongest. I am the son of my winged father. And the elf grimaces with distaste. His voice becomes normal again. Appalling. Stories like these are the most difficult ones to keep with me. Did this knife belong to a demon? This knife belonged to a very specific demon, Abby. The storyteller opens his mouth to answer, but a sudden spasm crosses his face. A new vision, a much stronger one, engulfs the old elf. The malevolent undertones vanish from his voice as it grows more determined and tired. Even looking at the wardstone is difficult, despite the corruption nesting in it. It still has an aura of strength. Your fingers clench the stone hilt so tight it hurts. A little spot on the flawless surface of the wardstone draws your attention. It looks like a butterfly. Corruption in the guise of something utterly harmless. But it will grow. You swing and stab the butterfly with the knife as hard as you can. Your fingers cramp painfully. A howl invades your ears. Light. White light everywhere. The stone knife falls from the old elf's hands. Out of breath, he drops to his knees. He's trembling, the terror on his face so unlike his usual dignified manner. What was that? That was not the past. That was something that is yet to happen? Or rather, might happen? One of the roads to the future in one of the possible futures? This item will help you cleanse the wardstone, or to destroy it. You feel a longing to take the stone chisel and plunge it into your chest, right into the wound that is opened up in it. It's hard to resist this feeling, but at the last moment, your self-preservation instinct takes over, and you manage to keep control of your own hand. The old man stands up, and he looks completely stunned. Never before has anything like this happened to me. But how? I'm not an oracle or a prophet. Or is this another riddle from the past that has caught up with me? I must find out. Seeing stories that have happened is one thing, but seeing stories that are not yet to happen? I don't know why this is happening now. But there is one thing that I am sure of. This is not coincidence. It's a sign of coming changes. Great changes. I shared your vision, and this knife, it tempted me. Did you see what I saw? This has never happened before. Could it be the magic of the object that you brought? I sense dark energies in it that can cloud and charm the mind. Be careful with this item. It may have tried to influence you, but you managed to overcome its power and subdue it. Or perhaps something else happened to us, something we don't yet understand. Who are you in your vision? I don't know. Someone strong and desperate enough to resort to extreme measures. I felt that what I was doing had to be done. Which would... I wonder if that must have been the Aeon then, in like the second vision. The first one, I'm gonna guess that was Jaskari. Is what you saw destined to happen? No, the future is not set. It used to be, a long time ago, when the god Aridin guarded Golorian. But now, prophecies do not come true. Or they do, but not the way that they were supposed to. I only saw one version of the future, only one of the paths leading to it. But the choice has not yet been made, and our destinies are not yet set in stone. Your powers are amazing. A few minutes ago, I would have agreed with you, but the thing that just happened, it disturbs me. My gift has never manifested like this. Something has changed, and these changes frighten me. Can I help you at all? The storyteller nods gratefully. I appreciate your offer. I have reason to believe that somewhere in Canobris is a manuscript authored by an elf from Keonan who witnessed Earthfall. And by the way, Earthfall is the name given to the cataclysmic event in which a shower of meteorites impacted Golorian in 5293. It resulted in the destruction of the human empire Thessalion and Aslant, which were consumed by earthquakes and massive tidal waves, and the creation of the Inner Sea. The cloud of dust thrown up by Earthfall's impact settled in Golorian's upper atmosphere and blotted out the sun for 1,000 years, creating the Age of Darkness. For personal reasons, I would like to examine it, but no matter how hard I try, I failed. Even in the Blackwing Library, I only found mention of the manuscript, and it's held somewhere else in the city. I assumed it's stored in the Grey Garrison. They wouldn't let me into the archive when I visited. All those crusaders were nervous about a strange blind elf interested in their secrets. It's understandable. The crusade naturally made them a little paranoid. But now the Grey Garrison has fallen into enemy hands, and I'd be grateful if I could get a manuscript. Of course. When I go back, that's all yours. I gotta go. I wish you interesting adventures. I don't know if we can have anything but interesting adventures at this point. Darren! The Defender's Heart is a splendid choice for the Crusaders' outpost. The very sight of these walls brings back fond memories of drinks and revels. The drinks were really good, by the way. So can I ask you a few personal questions? You can try. Why is that always so funny? Darren, what do you hate the most? The feeling of helplessness, the lack of control over my own life. Darren replies without thinking, and then he adds with obvious sarcasm, and onion rings, of course. I'd murder the person who came up with those abominations. I see, this is why his character is so interesting. Like, this is the truth, the feeling of helplessness and the lack of control. And yeah, sure, maybe he doesn't like onion rings, which, I mean, I'm gonna have to heavily disagree with. However, if Abby does go down this road with Darren, the good news is Abby likes onion rings. I'm gonna assume Abby does, because I do, so yeah, and Abby will just eat them for him. That's how relationships work, kind of thing. She's gonna be a sacrifice, but she gonna eat those onion rings, and she's just gonna do it for him. I'll be fine. Now I'm hungry. What do you cherish most in life, Darren? There are far too many things that I cherish to fit them all into a single conversation. Believe it or not, but I might be one of the most life-loving people you've ever known. Darren smiles, his eyes gleaming with something different from his usual impudence and irony. There's a dreamy air about him all of a sudden. I rarely meet anyone who embraces the joys of living as enthusiastically as myself. There are so many exciting and beautiful things in the world. It should be illegal to waste your time on anything you do not enjoy. I'm not afraid to repeat that to anyone's face, should it be Discari and his demonic horde or Iomade the Lightbringer herself. He brings up a good point. You know, he does. You can't necessarily disagree that you should be doing what you enjoy. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't get to, but he's not wrong. We'll come back to some of these others in a bit, but what made you join my party, Darren? You mean instead of carousing far away from Canopus with a small army of mercenaries to protect me? I'll get to that. You see, when you appeared at my door out of nowhere, awash with bravery and heroism, and started tossing demons around like ragdolls, I thought that your company might be more exciting than my usual crowd of sycophantic hangers-on. You seemed competent and mysterious at the same time, so I decided that a little demon hunting wouldn't hurt, especially with such an intriguing entourage. That party has been growing staler with every passing second anyways. Needless to say, I'm not here for long. I shall return to the capital or even one of my country estates as soon as we reclaim the city. Crusades, bellowing commanders, row upon row of identical tents. This is not the life for me, but I will certainly remember you and our adventures together for a week, perhaps even longer than that. Okay. There's another question. I don't think it's... I think it's the enemies one. I'm going to say that for a different day. But that one's actually really interesting. And I definitely kind of want to get into that when the time comes. But you make some good points in that one. Okay. So, like I said, I saved the books. Because I'm that person. These are Hasila's orders. I'm going to save those. Please don't ask me why. Almost new diary. Literally, it says, life is shit. Well, my brother, and although what kind of brothers are they really, are having a great time up on the surface. I'm stuck down here with Hasila, the nightmare and mongrel scum. To top it all off, a pipe sprung a leak. Well, maybe that's why you shouldn't join the wrong side, son. Alright, trend to love skills. I'm gonna put these here for now because I don't really see myself using them, but I don't necessarily want to get rid of them. Okay, perfect. And let's see, there is a recipe for seasoned wings and thighs. It is a comprehensive guide to a tasty recipe. Can't go wrong with that. I'm going to ask you to show me what you have so I can do some bulk selling. And I got nobody that can use this currently, or this, or this, or this, or this, or this, or these. I guess I'll double check this stuff against other people in a bit. But that's a good little bit of stuff to sell currently. Where's the... Oh, there it is. The ring that he gave me. Grants that we're +1 luck bonus on all save. Oh! Well, that's not a bad ring to have. Okay. So I guess I should go talk to Nenio, Ember, and then probably get some sleep. I think that should be the next order of things. All right, I am back. I don't know if you're going to be back or if we're going to be in the middle of an episode, but I kind of forget what we were up to. So the League of Inspiring Cart, that is on the pause, and then I've got Burning City. Can't do Great Garrison yet. There's this. Stay of Execution, so I don't know when that's gonna happen. Prelate Hulrin. Okay, so I forget if I actually slept or not. I won't know until I look at the footage. So I feel like the last thing we did was talk to Darren, which is fine. I'm not fatigued yet, technically, and we did put this stuff away. What is this? Is this Radiance? I'm gonna hold on to Radiance for now. I don't know. I don't think anybody needs this armor that we have going. Least of all. Well, well, I mean, there's no penalty on it. 5 art. No, see, I don't want the spell failure chance. I think that there's like the this, right? Because this would go here, and then there's something else that goes in that category that I can pick. Every time I see this armor, all I can think of is my gosh, she's in Kingmaker. And she yells, "For Gorham!" the whole time. I want to say Amira, but I'm probably wrong. And I don't know why I want to say Amira. But that's all I think of every time I see that armor. I don't think this armor... Oh, we hadn't talked to Nenio yet. I had mentioned we got to go talk to her. So let's go do that before I forget. Nenio! Did Kian really go up for this conversation? Girl, I am pleased with you. I asked you to bring me to safety, and that's exactly what you did. Indeed, having a follower to aid me is the most efficient and frankly pleasing. With you on hand, I shall conquer new horizons, plumb the depths of knowledge hereto unknown, and scale the dizzying heights of future discoveries. What I mean is, I'd like to express my deepest gratitude. I foresee immense potential in our future cooperation. I am happy to help. Hand in hand, we will unravel the greatest mysteries inaccessible to the minds of ordinary people. Just imagine it. I, leading the way, proudly staring into the faces of the gods themselves, and you, my loyal follower, walking behind me every step of the way, writing down my deepest thoughts and admiring my profundity of my intellect. If we hold hands, you won't be able to go in front of me and lead the way. You are the catalyst, which, when it reacts with my intellect, will allow the latter to grasp the very essence of the universe itself. Why did I let myself get dragged into this? Like, in the back of my head, all I can see is, like, Woljip just shaking his head at me like, what did you do? Why did you do this? Do you always express yourself? Oh, express your delight like this? What? Who are you? Nenio stares at you for a while, bewilderment in her eyes, but then it is replaced by recognition. Oh, my new follower. What am I supposed to do? Oh, yes, I must provide some verbal encouragement for you as yet modest achievements and try to induce you to strive for more such encouragement, for more of such encouragement. That is the principle of underpins any training. That underpins any training. She frowns, but only for an instant. Ah, I see. Your modest nature was unsettled by the overabundance of my gratitude. I do apologize for putting you in such an awkward position. I will never praise you again, unless I forget. But let's get back to business. Your new assignment will be to take me to the inconspicuous ruins that are located in an even more inconspicuous valley lying between Canabris and Dresden as soon as reasonably practical. I'll mark the place on your map with a large red cross so you won't forget. Thank you. Well, now you know, so off we go. Did I just make a rhyme? Perhaps I've discovered a poetic talent. Let's conduct an experiment. Quickly, say any word and I'll try to find a rhyme for it. Science. That's when thinkers make alliance. Intellectual defiance. Not the best rhymes, don't you think? Well, this little experiment was unsuccessful. We learned that I have no poetic talent after all. But it's no reason to despair. Having a gift of poetry, in addition to my inexhaustible intelligence, would have been a little too much. Besides, I am catastrophically busy and have no time to spend on writing poetry. Nenio produces a crumpled piece of paper from her sleeve and takes notes. This conversation lasts approximately 5 minutes. By the way, did you know that Did you know that is the exact same amount of time Inquisitors of Canabris need to find a defendant guilty? Wait, only 5 minutes? But to shake off Inquisitors chasing you takes 5 times as long. That experiment proved that running while clad in heavy armor is not burdensome for them at all. That's terrifying, Nenio. Oh, I need to talk to him, right? I think this is the priest. Hold on. Abby? Can you come over here, honey? Like, Abby, where were you? What were you doing? She just chilling by the bar over there. A stark man with a fuzzy gray beard mumbles a prayer. He looks as tired as everyone else in the tavern, but determination is stamped upon his haggard face. What can I do for you? Whenever I sleep outside the walls of Defender's Heart, I'm plagued by terrible dreams. Can you help me? The priest studies your face. You look tired, but otherwise entirely healthy. If we were anywhere else, I'd simply tell you to go get some rest. But we're on the border of the world wound, and I'm all too aware of what's happening. As you know, the wound is a rift between Galorian and the Abyss, and all the evil that feeds the Abyss does the opposite in our world. It feeds on Galorian. So it is that even when we cannot see demons near us, our ultimate foe, the Abyss, is always surrounding us. Many soldiers fighting in the world wound experience similar things. They suffer terrible nightmares and get no peace, and sometimes even lose their minds. But we are trained to help you with this affliction. By the will of Abadar, I have consecrated the altar here. The god's grace permeates the space around it, soothing one's soul and quieting thoughts during rest. So if you find your nerves fraying, seek out a holy place like this. Approach it, and the corruption will be cleansed from you. Who is the boy with you? This one, Cato, is the shepherd is my apprentice. He's a smart boy and has faith, and his faith is strong. He serves Erasteel, though, but there's still something he can learn from an old servant of Abadar. He'll be a great cleric when he gets a little older. Okay. May Abadar aid you. Thank you. Oh, and we haven't... I want a quick save here. Let's talk to Indara. This is an interesting conversation. I actually really like this one. An imposing young Oread is surrounded by a crowd of crusaders who are hanging on to her every word. I hope this example clearly illustrates the difference between Jistka legionnaires from the last war and the crusaders. The perfection of form and spirit they were imbued with during creation turned them into parts of a well-balanced war machine, not a ragtag bunch of individuals, but a united whole. Now tell me again why I'm supposed to be impressed by your reckless assault, where everyone is fighting for their ego and for their right to beat their peers to a swift but pointless heroic sacrifice. Some of the crusaders grumble unhappily, but it's clear they are captivated by the woman's words. The only exception is a scraggly, disheveled half-monk whose puffy black eyes give him away as a brawler and a troublemaker. He enthusiastically pushes forward and tries to engage, but one of his friends swiftly jabs him in the back with an elbow, making the poor fellow catch his breath. All right, we're going to quietly listen to this discussion. Now, the one thing that I already with this conversation and like this wisdom that they're trying to impart is that they're basically saying that because they were basically parts of one whole, they were a balanced, well-balanced war machine, not a ragtag bunch of individuals, but united as a whole. And that's already going on the premise that you can't have just a bunch of people, individuals that unite as a whole, because you can, with the right leader, with the right circumstances, you can have a whole bunch of people from a multitude of different places and backgrounds and everything like that come together and to be this united whole and actually win the day. So we're already coming at this from almost like, I know they're not necessarily intentionally trying to be disrespectful, but because for the world wound, this is what it is, and this is how they've been fighting it the whole time, like it already does kind of come off that way. Granted, we've been fighting it for 100 years and nobody's beaten it yet, but things, I mean, that's why we're playing this game, right? We're going to try to change things like that. But Abby is the sort who's just going to listen and observe until the moment is right. One of the Crusaders angrily curls his fist tightly and retorts with a burst of passion. If those gists of yours or whatever had come for us, we'd have their guts for garters. You think we've never fought a mighty adversary before? A soldier's stern facade cannot fully conceal his relish. He clearly plans to enjoy this confrontation. The Crusaders around him look upon their exotic opponent with a mixture of irritation and piqued interest. The woman chuckles before cutting off her interlocutor. I would love to see you storm a 60-foot tall walking castle shaped like a gigantic elephant that carries siege fortifications on its back. And I'll have you know, these fortifications were defended by Jiskin priest craftsmen armed with the demon-bound war machines. They use the enemies you cannot defeat as mindless weapons. The woman gave the people around her a triumphant look and adjusts her clothes with pointed nonchalance. Her voice takes on a lecturer's tone. You should not argue with someone who happens to be the most authoritative researcher on the history of warfare 3,000 years before the foundation of Absalom. I'd actually say, though, that you should absolutely, I don't want to say argue, because honestly, yeah, he was definitely being argumentative, but you should absolutely have discussions with people who are more educated than you in certain topics, because how else are you going to learn? Like, if you could only have conversations or discussions or anything like that with people who were at the same intellect as you, then nobody would ever grow or learn or see different perspectives. So this is already just like, Indara is a really interesting case of all of this, but I would argue that this Crusader should absolutely be having a discussion with them to learn, and in hopes that maybe Indara would also learn something from them. The woman looks at you and flashes an amused smile. The lecture is over. Do my esteemed listeners have any questions? All right, so I always go with, so first, who are you? I'm Indara, a warrior, magus, and scholar of the classical warfare from Garand. The woman peers at you apprehensively, then sighs. I admit I am mildly offended by the fact that my name is entirely unfamiliar to you, but I'm willing to accept that this is due to Abastan's isolation from the sophisticated culture of the world at large. You've come a long way to be here. I'd like to think of myself as an inhabitant of Galorian. I don't narrowly identify with any country in particular. So why did you come here? To witness a legendary war, the confrontation between denizens of a plain famous for its love of violence and the Crusaders from every continent united by the common goal of defending their home. An epic struggle of colossal proportions that hasn't been particularly epic so far, truth be told. The monk with the black eye grins and mutters under his breath, maybe she just can't see it from here. The view will get way more epic if she stops hiding among us and takes a walk outside. I mean, he's not. The pink guy over here ain't wrong. The woman smirks. She does not deem the monk's words worthy of a comment. So I personally disagree. The Crusaders are doing a commendable job at resisting demons. Oh yes, the situation we have found ourselves in can attest to that. Then again, demons are no better. Their preferred strategy also involves brute strength, mindless assault, and unfounded confidence in their superiority. You're wrong to treat the Crusaders with such disdain. Let's have a chat. A debate? Oh, I'll be happy to prove that the current conflict can't hold a candle to the last war. A debate. I just love it that she's like, let's have a debate. And I'm going to prove you wrong. That's already coming at this debate from such an awkward angle. Very well. The last war of the Jiska was waged using significantly greater number of troops. Both sides actively relied on reinforcements from allied planes, and their strategic planning was perfected through no fewer than 7 rounds of intensive design. None of the above applies to this war of yours. Compared to the Jiska, we are but stone club wielding kobold. I would like to conclude my thesis with a few words of wise counsel from Dagon, an advisor to the Pharaoh of Forgotten Plagues. I doubt you'll comprehend the true genius of his statement, but here it is nevertheless. The gadfly sees the ox pays no heed to the gadfly, but crimson fever takes them both. I mean, that's actually not that difficult to parse kind of thing. Like, basically, this genius statement is that the fly is very small and insignificant to the ox. But the fly lands on the ox, probably bites it or whatever, and the gadfly had crimson fever, and now the ox also has it. So it doesn't matter how insignificant or how small something is, it can still affect something much, much bigger than it for, whatever reason. So let's see. I have 13 knowledge, and I've got, I don't know if I've ever been this close to this. So the events of the past are shrouded in legend, but the fate of the world is being decided here and now, and that is what you fail to grasp. Or, the principles of war are always the same. Weapons, causes, resources may change, but the foundation remains immutable. Honestly, I personally prefer the diplomacy option, because the events of the past are shrouded in legend. As was mentioned, let me just see if I can find this really quick. An epic, struggle, colossal, no... warfare 3,000 years before the foundation of Absalom. And for more than 4,000 years it's been. So we're talking 4,000 years plus 3,000 years before that. So 7,000 years ago. So unless this person is 7,000 years old, which I don't think they lived that long, everything that they have learned about this war, like these wars that were fought, are stories at this point. They're legends. So everything is based on the perspective of other people, and it's just like compacting. So you had the original story of what happened, and now you've got 7,000 years worth of retellings of it, and who knows how it's changed to fit whatever it needed to fit at the time, to inspire or to scare or whatever that story needed to do. So those are legends, and you can't necessarily take them at face value, but the fate of the world is being decided right now. This is where it's really being made. You're like witnessing things that you don't even know if your stories are telling correctly from way back when, kind of thing. This is the important, the here and now. We passed. Thanks, Darren. The earnestness on the face of those around you is taken away in Indara's panache, encouraging her to backtrack and stumble. Of course, I'm not trying to diminish the importance of current events. What I am trying to say is that from the standpoint of history, and particularly the history of warfare, she falls silent, fixedly staring at the unfriendly eyes of her audience. The true importance of these developments won't become obvious until later. Indara offers a pretentious dismissal. As a scholar, I cannot deny that there's a certain truth beneath your skeptical statements. History is a complex discipline rooted in fact and evidentiary basis that grows ever more meager the farther the described period is from the present moment, which is exactly kind of what we just talked about, how the farther you go, the less you've got that all those facts and evidentiary things to kind of prove what had happened, because it's been so long. Of course, if I were to argue in bad faith, the way the Crusaders embellished their tales of slaying a single Brumarak by adding a dozen Balers, for example, I could win this debate, but I am above such things, and therefore I'm forced to admit that your skepticism is not entirely without merit. And of course, the Crusaders embellish their tales. They do it for clout, because that's just what they do, and because they want to be the baddest of the bad. And also, I think in part there are some that probably do it to help inspire. This is what seems like a never-ending war. It's 100 years, and that we've been doing this for. So I do think that some probably embellish some stories, probably older soldiers, people that have seen a lot, to help inspire the younger crowd to get them to keep fighting this war, because I mean, you either keep fighting or you die, kind of thing at this point. I'm sure you would have been able to expound on your argument in a longer discussion. Indara nods with obvious relief. I'm glad we both understand this limitation. It's always a pleasure to face a worthy opponent, even if the debate takes place in a grimy tavern, perhaps especially because of that. Indara unbuckles her sword belt and hands you the weapon. This is a worthy blade. It will be of use not only for the strong, but also the wise. And this is where I bid you farewell. Before the end of the day, I was planning to observe how winged demons use pack tactics to drive their prey like herds of livestock. It's about time I got back to my research. The hint of a smile graces Indara's lips when she sees disappointment in the eyes of the many crusaders. Stay safe. I actually really like that they allowed you to either basically kick her out of the tavern and kind of just be an ass overall, or to do it this way where you're allowing them to bow out gracefully and you're kind of just not beating a dead horse, so to speak. Like, you made your point and then you can drop it kind of thing. And that does such a long way in building a character, especially when you're like role playing it in your head. Because Abby isn't somebody that wants to just dig and dig and dig and dig and make somebody feel awful for it. Abby's somebody that wants to have a conversation and get both of their points across, learn something, and then move on. And that's what they allowed you to do. And I just really like that writing. And there Indara goes. And the sword's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's a nice sword. And it goes straight to Sela. Right? Yeah, straight to Sela. So, she now got way more damage. And it has fire. Look at it. It flames. Ah, so excited. I love this sword for some reason. I don't know why. Every time I see that sword, I'm like, woohoo. Okay. So I think we've done everything here. Let's head back out. I'm gonna see. I know we did talk to Bolgef a little bit. And then I'm going to head back. Why is it? Okay. I don't know how far we're gonna get before the game's like, time to come home. But we'll see. We'll see.